Over the weekend, jihadists linked to the Islamic State West Africa province, ISWAP, that killed hundreds of people in a flurry of blood attacks in northeast Nigeria. The war against insurgency may not end soon because the terrorists now deploy drones in their operations. One of such elders from the north is asking 1001 questions about the insecurity in the region. He is Mahmoud Jega, a former editor with the New Nigeria newspaper, is asking several questions on the degeneracy of an unsecured north. He asks, when and how did northern Nigeria become the ground zero of insecurity in Nigeria? Playground for insurgents, kidnappers, cattle rustlers, bandits, armed robbers, epicenter of senseless killings, burning of villages, and springing up of IDP camps in every available school building and open space. How did things turn around such that today southern Nigerian politicians, clerics, activists, columnists, and even leaders of militant and secessionist groups are the ones advising the North on how to get its act together and stop destabilizing the whole country? Well, for more on this, I've now been joined by Air Vice Marshal Sonni Gberevbie, who is a retired Air Force pilot, former Commandant, Armed Forces Command and Staff College, and is also a lawyer amid several positions he held while serving in the Nigerian Armed Forces. Very warm welcome and thanks for joining us on the Arise interview. Where did the North get it wrong? Nay, the entire country, that it has become a killing field and a mass graveyard in Nigeria.
Thank you very much. I'm happy you said the entire country. I will say what you are seeing today is not the outcome of the security situation in the last couple of years. It has been a problem since, let's say, the 1980s. I will tell you straight away that until very recently, nobody cared about security, about defense in this country. Why do I say this? If you look at the equipping of the Nigerian military, I think the last time a meaningful attempt was made to equip the Nigerian military after the Civil War was during the Shagari regime. Since after then, from the time of President Babangida up till this present government, no effort was made to procure necessary hardware for the military. So, the military being what it is, you train in peacetime to prepare for war. Yes, we've been training, but what have we been training with? There was this idea that we are not under threat from anywhere, that all our neighbors are relatively weak countries or weaker countries. So, what is the point? Investing in the military. I will tell you straight away that what we are witnessing today, apart from the political perspective to the problem, is the outcome of these decades of neglect.
The decades of neglect that you mentioned was more palpable during the military era, because you mentioned the former president who was there and starved the military of needed equipment. Manpower may be there and the rest. It was deliberate to forestall any coup. But we've had the certain banditry and religious uprising in the north. The Maitasine uprising, for example, that enveloped Kanu, Yola, Adama, Old Gongola, and the rest, and even up to Borno. These were curtailed. But this one, from Boko Haram to ISWAP, it's a killing field. Is it as a result of the incapacity of the Nigerian military to step up their games, or they don't even have what it takes to step it up? You're a former pilot.
Well, you refer to Metasine, the Metasine uprising. At the time of Metasine, the Nigerian military was relatively still well capable in terms of equipment, because the carryover of the equipment from the Shagari era, they were there. You had the Boko helicopters and the army, they had their Scorpion tanks and things like that. So they were able to move in speedily and deal with the situation. But like I said, if you take the regime of Babangida, you take even Obasanjo's regime, nothing was done. We only started doing something when the present administration came in. But of course, you know, by the time the present administration came in, the military was practically comatose. We were relying on outdated equipment, and it takes time. Military equipment, they are not things you buy off the shelf. And we never, when I say we, I mean government, subsequent government never realized this. Or if they realized, they never wanted to pay attention. Of course, the obvious reason, like you mentioned, regime security. Nobody wanted to equip the military so that in the mistaken belief that if the military is very well equipped, then of course they will constitute a threat to the government of the day, which is a very wrong appreciation of the kind of military we have today. But things are turning around, and I believe that with what government has in the pipeline, by the time they start coming in, we have a more effective military. Then again, another problem again, for a very long time, even at the time of Shagari, military procurements were done by politicians. I can tell you, I joined the Nigerian Air Force in 1974. From 1974 up till the time I left, politicians dictated what the military will use. Government, at least as far as the Air Force is concerned, I know. Political contractors came and pushed equipment down the throats of the military. It's either you take it, if you have nothing to work with, it's either you take it or you lose the opportunity. So these are some of the problems. Ordinarily, the military should say, this is what we need to perform. And it becomes the responsibility of government to provide the military with the assets they have identified and requested. But it never happened throughout the period I was in the military. Even the procurements that were made at the time of Shehu Shagari, they were done by political contractors. So these are some of the problems.
And when at the end of the day, even if the equipment are gotten, they are probably substandard and not what the Nigerian military would need.
Well, your guess is as good as mine. If I'm asking for, let's say, F-16, just for the sake of taking every other issue aside, because of course the procurement of equipment, as you can see with what we are doing with the Tucano, you have a lot of political control. I mean, at the international level, assuming that is what you want, and you are given something that you are told, okay, this is what we want to give you. It's either you take it or you leave it. So at the end of the day, you end up with a lot of assets that are not really fit for purpose, but you are forced to use the assets. And
that could be endangering officers and men too at the battlefront when there is one like we have on our hands now.
It could degrade capability. That's the way I would put it. It could degrade capability.
Not because the men and officers are not capable, no, but because they don't have the right equipment.
Exactly.
Okay, General Sonni Gberevbie would go on a short break to take some messages. When we return, we'll look at the contributions of the Nigerian Air Force to the present insurgency in the Northeast. You're still watching the Arise interview. We've got more still ahead. Stay with us. You're welcome back to the Arise interview with me, Christian Ogdowa, live in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. There's been a growing call for the government to live up to its responsibility by tackling the present state of insecurity in the country. Many lives are being wasted almost daily by Boko Haram and bandits. People are being abducted and killed by kidnappers because they could not pay the huge ransom demanded by the hoodlums. People are now living in perpetual fear as they are not safe on the highways and even in their homes. According to Mahmoud Jega, the former editor of New Nigeria, he said, up till the 1980s, Northerners used to think that criminality and violence were Southern Nigerian phenomenon. There were almost no armed robbers in the North. During our school days in the 1970s, we read about armed robbery in the Daily Times, in Tribune, in Sketch, and in Punch newspapers. All the spectacular robbery incidents that we heard about took place in Lagos, East Central, and Midwestern states. We hardly ever saw a northern name amongst the armed robbers that were caught and executed under the Robbery and Firearms Tribunal decree. So, what went wrong? I say have with me my guest, retired AVM Sonni Gberevbie, is a retired Air Force general and also a lawyer. Let's look at the operations of the military in the fight against insurgency in the Northeast. The air component of the operations Lafia Dole seems to be the weak link in the military operations. I say this because the northern part of this country is part of the Sahel region. So it's not as forested as the mangrove swamp forest in the south that probably could hinder air operations. What is really lacking in the operational capability of the Air Force to pinpoint hordes, hundreds of terrorists moving from one village to the other?
Well, you mentioned that the Air Force appears to be the weak link. I will not agree with that postulation.
This is not an emotional, not
necessarily because
disagreement.
Not necessarily because I'm an Air Force officer. There are ways you fight wars, and there are different types of operations. First and foremost, this is not a conventional military
We
operation.
all know that.
Yes.
But they come from a place, don't they?
Yes. I just want to give this as
Go
a background.
on. Yeah.
Then you have what you call joint operations. What is going on currently in the Northeast is supposed to be a joint operation. But the question is, are we fighting jointly? That's a big question. Then if you are conducting joint operations, the proper chain of command must be maintained. And the Chief of Defense Staff, all joint operations are supposed to be directly under the control of the Chief of Defense Staff. Is Operation Lafia Dole directly under the Chief of Defense Staff? I will leave that question. My own take is that, yes, the two services are fighting in the Northeast, but they seem to be fighting their own wars. The Air Force will receive intelligence. There's a Boko Haram camp somewhere, or they are concentrating somewhere. They will go, take out the camp. Of course, the army may not be within the loop. Follow-up action, therefore, may not follow, may not be there. You have, the Air Force has hit the camp, but you need the ground forces to mop up, to move in and mop up. But if they have not planned jointly, how do they get to be there? So, it will appear they are fighting, each service is fighting its own war. Then, secondly, you look at the kind of strategy the army is adopting. They have this concept of super camps, where the troops are concentrated in some camps, and they are expected to react from there. If there is any threat anywhere, the whole idea is that, okay, you concentrate the men, and if there is a threat in one axis, you speedily go there and take off the threat, and of course you go back to your camp. To me, the concept provides security for the military, for the army itself. They are secure in their camps. But the various places from where you have withdrawn into your super camp, what happens in the gap in between? These are some of the problems. And
that's where the Air Force too is supposed to come in. So with the super camp, yes, there is no command and control system, one, on how to synergize the operations of the Air Force and the military. I'll quickly give you an example. In Gubio local government area, where several villages and more than 81 people in the first instance were killed, before another 66 were killed, within 72 hours, they said the military helicopter or jet came hovering around but did not come to their assistance. How would you explain such a situation?
Okay, it's not every aircraft that is fitted to deliver weapons. Clearly, maybe the first aircraft that came, because like I gathered, the Air Force came eventually. The first aircraft that came probably was a surveillance aircraft, an ISR aircraft, intelligence surveillance and reconnaissance aircraft, to pass information to ground control, preparatory to the deployment of maybe a helicopter or a fighter jet.
How long does it take in such a situation to deploy, even if it's just a gunner that you have in a helicopter? When I went to Konduga with the military, not just to Bama, when Bama was liberated in 2015 by the Nigerian Armed Forces from Boko Haram, that was what we went with about 4 gunners.
You see, intelligence is, in any operation, intelligence is paramount. The reaction time for the Air Force depends on when they receive information. If there is no speedy dissemination of information, there is no way they will know what is happening. And the Northeast is a vast plain. It's a very big area, very vast area. So the point I made earlier about the way the army is operating, I think, if I may say so, they may need to review their concept of super camps. Yes, initially they had pickets. They had pickets all over the whole place where the troops are dissipated, and of course, because they are not concentrated in force, they become easy targets for the Boko Haram terrorists. But that way, the army was losing men. My own suggestion would be, yes, the concept of super camp is good, but we may need to have many of these super camps so that the gap between super camps and the no man's land in between is not so wide. And you see that a lot of the men the military has lost, the army that is now, they lose them because of IEDs, booby traps they set along the along the route when they try to react to threats. So the army may need to review their operations. The issue of setting up pickets, maybe pickets that will be in number, they will concentrate, they will have more of these super camps all over the place. Maybe the camps need not be as large as they are now. They need to, as far as possible, try to cover the land. But again, you have problems. Do they have the men?
And the equipment?
Do they have the men? We have a lot of the soldiers manning checkpoints all over the country. What are they doing at the checkpoints? Can't we withdraw these people, take all of them to where there is the
real battle? The
real battle. That is one. Then again, you have what I would call political distractions. Political distractions in this war. Well, the governor of Borno State is doing well in terms of administration of the state, but there are other issues. If I am to go the extreme, we need to take a drastic decision. This war cannot continue going on and on.
Tell us that's a drastic decision, because you were once the commandant of the Commandant Staff College in Jaji, a highbrow military training institution for senior officers. Quickly.
Okay, my own drastic decision will have political consequences. Jonathan declared a state of emergency in the Northeast. We may need to go back, declare a state of emergency, make resources available to the military. When I say state of emergency, we are not talking of the state of emergency where the military, where the governor will be removed. Where the governor will be. That is why I say it will be drastic. The military will have full powers to take charge of the states where you have this problem. And resources must be made available to them to procure this war and finish it in the shortest possible time. We do not count the cost of the war. The only cost we count is the loss of men and human beings. But the economic cost is incredible. So the earlier we mobilize resources, declare a state of emergency in this place, get the military, give them strict timeline. Within this period, go ahead and finish this operation.
Once and for all.
Once and for all. Thanks. And let's move forward.
Thanks so very much. Retired Air Vice Marshal Sonni Gberevbie is a general and a lawyer. Thanks for coming on the Arise interview.
Thank you.